Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Cocoa Nomad Podcast. And this episode is yet another retrospective, where every 2 weeks I review the previous 2 weeks of my work, what I'm doing. I talk about my successes, I share the lessons learned, share setbacks because not everything goes well, and then I talk about what's next. So let's get started. So, starting off with what did I ship? What was successful? As I've mentioned before in a previous episode, the Reflexes app that I've been working on was released in the App Store. It is ready to go. We've been working on some improvements, and that's what I've been focused on lately, including HealthKit integration. So that version is coming to the App Store very, very soon. I'm really, really excited about it. Continue working on it. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a fun project to work on. It's a fun, engaging app that I love the history of because it came out of a lot of disruption and a lot of problems, but we were able to pivot from what we were working on before the pandemic started, and we decided to do something that would be useful and fun and engaging for people who were stuck at home. But now we are in a situation where, things are starting to open up, but the game is still fun. People are still using it. We're starting to see some organic growth there. It's really good. Saw a couple of people on Instagram playing the game in different ways than we actually intended. So that was pretty cool to see. So we'll continue to work on that and continue to improve it. And it's been a very, very good experience. In terms of what what's the setbacks for this period, I think, as I spoke about in the previous episode, continue to look at ways that I can help people who are very frustrated with where they are in life based on a lot of different factors: economic factors, social factors, work factors. And so I think the way that I can do that is just to continue to share my journey and the lessons that I'm learning. So I'm going to get into that. One big takeaway from the last 2 weeks is really just intentionality and focus. And I've talked about intentionality and acting with intention, but with the focus piece more so, I was challenged in my biweekly or weekly accountability meeting by my accountability partner to really focus. I had some ideas I wanted to work on, and he's always a person that tries to reel me back in and say, "You're trying to do too much. You need to pare this down." And I always fight back. I'm just like, I want to do a bunch of different things. That's just how I am. I'm interested in doing different things. What I've tried to do is pare them down and make sure that they overlap, that I'm sort of strengthening skill sets in a certain area when I want to grow in a certain way, and try to make sure that each of the individual smaller projects that I'm working on get me towards that end. So in that regard, that's one of the reasons why the project like the Reflexes app and any of the other iOS projects or mobile projects I'm working on are strictly iOS right now. I originally had a plan to do some Flutter development and do some Android work, but the reality is I was able to move a lot faster just because I have been working with iOS for so many years now, just exclusively. When I started working in mobile, I was doing both. I was doing Android and iOS at one point. But at this time, it's I was really diving in and really wanted to sort of double down in a lot of ways on the platform before I sort of grow off of it, and to take some of the lessons that I've been learning and then apply that onto the other platform while I'm also going through the learning curve of learning the specifics in that arena. So for me, it's just been clearing the deck for these particular projects that I want to do, and making sure that they're small, deliverable things that I can learn from. I'm really focused on the learning more than the earning, and that'll make sense when I talk about some of the things in the what's next section about how I'm going to be doing some new projects and some other things are coming back. So that intentionality and focus is really the most important thing at this stage, I believe. And then I'll come back after I've mastered some of the things, or at least gotten better, including YouTube. I get better at this production process, getting my sound better, getting a lot of these other things that you see in a lot of channels, improving that. But that takes time, and I'm not going to rush it. So you'll see that progression over time if you continue to follow this channel. And to that end, if you are getting value, please go ahead and click the like button and subscribe and hit the bell so that you can get notifications of when new videos are out. I'm going to continue to work this process and continue to give information that I find helpful. Please comment as well if there's something that you have a question about, you'd like to see, and that'll come into play a little bit later. I think it'll be more fun opportunity for you to do that kind of thing and give me some feedback and say, hey, I'd like you to try this. And that'll be cool, but we'll keep moving. I think, as I mentioned before, the biggest thing right now is this fight for independence, whether it's financial independence or just independence, and this fight for respect and the space to be yourself and to live is very, very important to me. It's really one of the reasons why, as I said in the previous video, why I left the US. There was so much of it that I was just tired of and just was ready for a change. But towards the end, I want to use this channel and videos here as an opportunity to help others do that. And I think one of the first places that I can do that is increasing financial awareness, talking about topics related to building financial independence, and removing financial dependency in areas that are not productive for you, that aren't helping you in your life. And that might be tying you to particular relationships. They may be tying you to particular locations, and you would like to break free from that. So I'm going to share some of the things that I've been doing. And I'm very, very mindful of the fact that I am a software developer by trade. And the first thing that happens typically when I have a conversation with someone about that fact is they roll their eyes and go, well, of course you can do it. You write software for a living. So what I'm going to be doing is more towards the ends of, regardless of what your job is, regardless of where you're making your income, two things. One, lessons and practices that you can apply. And then two, I'm going to have a little fun and start doing some of these challenges. I used to do challenges around food and diet and exercise. Well, I'm going to add some financial ones, and I'm going to be doing some challenges around making additional income, other sources of income, growing them, thinking about them, planning them, and I'll be sharing those things. And so that I can show you, hey, you make a commitment to something, you invest some time in it, and watch me learn, like the lumps and bumps. I mean, it's going to be ugly. Trust me. I've tried some things in the past. I've done things like Amazon FBA, leveraging retail arbitrage, and I've shared that in the previous blogs I have. And you can get that on the cocoanomad.com. You can find some posts there, but they're pretty old, going back to 2017 when I was doing it. And the challenge there, of course, was at the time, I was still traveling back and forth to the United States once or twice a year. So I would do my shopping, build up the inventory, and then ship it in, and then leave again, and then just have all my listings being sold. It's not a very efficient way to run a business and make money. I really benefited from the initial things that I sold on Amazon that were books that sold really well. I had a couple of music books that sold, and some other books that sold, and a couple of other items that were computer items, and I sold a couple of Raspberry Pis that I never got around to using. But sourcing that material, sourcing things became the challenge. I mean, my most successful item actually at that time was I bought some Wonder Woman pencil boxes for about, I think it was like $7 or $8, and sold them for like $25, and they sold quickly. And this is before the movie came out. And so I saw that coming. I saw, it's like, oh, they're making this movie, and these pencil boxes, they didn't have any like copywritten or anything like that. I mean, I was allowed to sell these toys or pencil boxes inside of Amazon. So it was a quick way to sort of flip, if you will, and have some. And I had a couple other items that I would pick up, toys, but most of the stuff honestly didn't really sell that well. They weren't items. They were items that were really expensive for me to pick up and put into a cart and list. And the listings seemed to say that, they would sell, not necessarily top sellers. And I think in hindsight, that's one of those lessons I would say I learned. It's like, be mindful not just of the fact that there's an existing listing and the price can be competitive, but look at the BSR and see how well it's selling, because maybe it won't move as quickly and it'll just sit there, and after a while you may have to start paying for storage, which is what happened with me. So I ended up just getting rid of it for the amount of money that I put into it. Wasn't terribly large. So there'll be more of that coming. And along with that, the thing that I'm sort of debating are monthly income reports. And I was doing monthly income reports back then. There wasn't a lot of income to speak of. And I'm really trying to make sure that if I do this and I share this, that is actually going to be helpful, and for that reason, it's like, I wouldn't include like my client work for development. I mean, you can become a software developer unless someone says in the comments like, hey, I'm a young or just getting started in software dev, and I do consulting and just client work, and then I have apps in the app store, and I'll share that too. It's like paying. It's like big month this month I made $7, but I'm doing things. I need to change how I'm doing some things, and that's another reason why I'm branching out to these other areas again, because there's some lessons to be learned about the way that you market anything that you make available and the way that you drive traffic. And so I've been away from that for a bit. I want to get back to it and really make sure that I'm taking those lessons to heart and applying them. It's one thing to learn things, it's another thing to do them. You can sit here and watch a ton of videos, you can read a lot of books, and you can get all this inspiration and motivation, but you still have to take action. And after taking action, you have to analyze and take a look back, like this retrospective, to see how well the things you've been doing have been working. What are you learning? What will you change? Hence, what's next? And so that's what I really like this structure to be, and I'm hoping that it serves as sort of a guide for other people to do the same thing. Like, have your own retrospective that you do. You don't have to put it on YouTube if you don't want to, or have a podcast. That's not the important piece. The most important piece is that you actually have a mechanism to look back, be introspective, learn, make changes, and move forward. I think that's the key to being a better person in all facets of your life. Which brings me to what's next. And what's next is I'm continuing to work on the Reflexes app, as I mentioned. I'm currently working on the Apple Watch integration so that you can actually start playing the game from the watch. You'll still need the phone because it is not an independent watch app. The app requires the camera from the phone so that you can actually tap the targets and engage in the game, because it's an augmented reality than using computer vision. So, but it's nice to be able to just go ahead and set the phone up, place it wherever you're going to be, and then just start whichever game you want to play, and you're already in position. So really excited about that. Hoping to wrap that up this week. Had a couple of technical problems. Anybody who's had like computer issues, it's like, the frustration sometimes. It's like for a day and a half, my computer was just not cooperating. And I downloaded an update, and I really regret it, because it's like I lost an entire day reinstalling software and trying to get things running again and getting my environment back the way it was. I thought it was a small update, but it wasn't. It was actually, I should have read I should have read the details of how big that update was. And so, lesson learned. And this is as someone who's been developing software professionally for over 20 years, and I still sometimes forget. It's like, ooh, you might want to wait on that, man. Just save that for like Saturday or Sunday when you just set that laptop aside, not in the middle of a busy work week. But in any case, here I am moving forward with that. I've got a couple of other small app projects that I'm working on. There's just fun things that I'm doing that are useful for me personally. I think maybe useful for other people, but they're not very big projects. They're really small things that I do a little by little. And I have a few friends that are just helping me alpha and beta test those. And then when they get into a better state, then I think about whether or not I'm going to release them or not into the wild and let other people use them. Or if it's just not something that looks like it's going to have any legs or something that people are interested in, I just use them. I have apps. I have multiple apps that I just use. They're just in my pocket. I've been using them for years that I've written, and they just have value to me. So I'm perfectly okay with that, because for me, the bigger thing is just learning and getting better at the craft. So that's just the way that I do that. I create apps that I can use that I find fun, or I want to test a new framework or a new approach. Right now, it's a lot of that is just all Swift UI. I've just really been trying to get better at Swift UI. So I'm trying to make different apps and improve my design skills. I hate shipping programmer art, as I say. It's just like very bland, very bad looking. And so to that end, I follow people on YouTube who are designers. I try to take classes. I do all of these different things to try to learn to get better. And the design thing, that lesson that I get is also applying to some of these other areas. So spoiler alert, one of the things that I'll be doing is creating print-on-demand projects. I tried the t-shirt thing in 2017 with Teespring. So much has changed in that arena, and I'm going to re-enter it as a way to both learn how to better market products, learning about keywords, learning about better copy, learning about just actual design and product design and what catches people's attention. So I'll be doing that as well. But a lot of that benefit is for me not necessarily to try to make a living doing it, but just to improve my design skills. It takes me so much longer to iterate through an app than it would be to do like a t-shirt or a poster or a mug. And so I can just do these smaller iterations. And one of those things I talked about, getting feedback and sort of getting small wins in a previous episode, and I'll link to it in the show notes. But it's about that. It's about having this process of getting small wins, getting short, having a smaller, shorter feedback loop. And that way you can get better at something that you want to improve upon. Finally, big announcement. If you are a developer in the iOS world, there is a conference that I love. It's actually my favorite conference. And I know DC is coming up on Monday. And I'm excited about that to see what changes are coming in the frameworks and what I'm going to be able to add to existing apps or new ideas or something that I can work on. But my favorite iOS conference is actually 360 iDev, which takes place in August. This year it's August 16th through 19th. I'll have a link in the show notes as well in the description below. But this year it's virtual, of course, because there's not going to be as much traveling. I'm here in Medellin, Colombia, so I won't be going back to the States to participate. But I will be the keynote speaker this year. So day one, kicking things off, I will be talking about some of these things in terms of very focused. My talk will be focused on those who want to be independent. There's a real drive. I still think that a lot of developers are holding on to that dream and fighting for that dream of being an indie developer. And I'm just going to share my experience with that and maybe lend some help for people who are looking for independence, because I'm looking for independence in all facets of my life. And I think there's some lessons that I've gleaned from financial independence, this journey, the location independence journey, this fight and independence for just respect and all of these things, and how they apply to my career and how I've done this with the products that I've worked on and tried to develop as well. I think there's lessons to learn across these different areas of life. And so I'm going to direct my talk toward that. And if you're interested and you're an iOS developer, it was a really good conference. It's not terribly large. I don't know what the numbers will be this year. Because it's virtual, normally it's about 400 people, which is why I love it. It's like 3 or 4 days, and you really get time to meet people. You really get a great opportunity to talk to each other and spend quality time with your colleagues, and it's a lot of fun. So that concludes this retrospective. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will talk to you next time. Take care.